Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Engaging Parents in Esports, and we are a coalition of parents in esports. My name is Shay Williams. I'm the mother of Duster, who is a Fortnite player and content creator for Optimal Ambition. And this is Chris, and I'll let these two, both Chris actually, I'll let these two introduce themselves in a second. But I first just want to tell you a little bit about how we got here. We're parents who, kind of followed our kids with what their passion was. My son was into all kinds of sports. He played on a traveling soccer team. He was actually even a competitive figure skater for a while with his sister. So we were all into sports, but my son really gravitated towards games. And games were something that we introduced at a young age because I came from software and technology. And so computers were in our house. It was something that we did, but it was fun. It was just casual entertainment. But when Fortnite came out, my son found competitive, and he did that all on his own. But he also found lots of other things. He found friends online that he related to. He found Twitch and started learning how to stream and run his own show and his own community. And at first, I was just trying to figure out what he was doing, what was going on in his bedroom late at night. And I was wanting to get to know his friends. But as I started paying more attention, I realized that he was actually learning a lot of incredibly valuable life skills here about connecting online digitally. He was also learning about marketing and branding, and he was having to set a schedule for himself because he had to get his schoolwork done. He needed the hours to practice, and to start, he was still playing soccer. So it was a juggling thing for him as well. And we did that for a while with me getting frustrated with him and not understanding. But then I had a few light bulb moments. One was going to a big event. We went to the Fortnite World Cup in New York, and I was completely blown away. We met all kinds of amazing people that were starting companies like these around esports and supporting kids who wanted to pursue esports. But we also just met so many people who were so passionate about it. And I realized that my son had not only found something that he liked to do competitively and as a sport, but this was a potential career for him because he had been taking some computer coding classes. He was fascinated by that side. And I realized that this actually enhanced that because he was actually learning about it from both sides, and it was sparking interest that he hadn't really thought about before. So he had been begging to be homeschooled, like so many kids who get into these kind of things. And I, of course, said no. That was the last thing I wanted to be, was a homeschool parent. But I finally relented after that because I really wanted to see, where could he go with this? What more could he learn about it? But then when I got into it, I realized there was nothing to tell me what to do. This was 2 years ago. There wasn't anything like XP League, so there wasn't a group that I could go to locally. I couldn't even find anything online. I figured out who all the pro teams were, but how do you get in touch with them? And there was just nothing. So he was doing great, but we didn't know how to connect with people, and we were starting to have agents and some pro teams reach out to us. But how do I know what is a good one? How do I know how to negotiate a contract? All these questions. And I found that my best information was coming from other parents. And Chris was one of those parents that I found at a LAN event and asked him a million questions. How do you manage his social life? How are you making him keep up with his school? And so that's kind of how all this came together, as I realized that us parents were relying on each other, but there was nothing out there to really help parents who wanted to pursue this either casually for their son or daughter or as a pro player. And so we wanted to come together and form a nonprofit, and that's what COPE is. We're a nonprofit to provide support for kids and for their parents on how to find organizations to help them. We do a little bit of everything, of supporting children who just want their parents to understand what they're doing, to helping with education benefits, to helping with college pursuits, and then also scholarships. We've created the COPE Community Fund to provide scholarships, not only for PCs and setups, but also for your college education. So that's kind of what our group is, and I'll turn it over to Chris now and let him tell you his story.
Thank you, Shay. Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Spakoski. I am the father of pro player and content creator Skeptic. He plays for Misfits Gaming, along with Chris as well. So yeah, my son has been, he's been a gamer for as long as I can remember. I guess when he was 2, he picked up first DS and Mario Once he got a hold of Mario, that was it. It was all over. But he was in all the mainstream traditional sports. He played soccer. He played Little League. I was a Little League coach. He was in karate, but he always kind of gravitated back towards gaming. So when he was about 10, he came up to me one day very definitively, and he said, "Dad, I want to be a YouTuber." Now, he didn't watch any TV growing up. He only watched YouTube. He had his favorite YouTubers, Ninja and Nick A30. But he was very definitive when he came up to me and he told me, he said, "Dad, I'm going to be a YouTuber. This is what I want to do." So I just thought, okay, that's great. I'm glad to see you're very passionate about that, but I just figured it was going to be like everything else, like karate, where he'd take it for a year and then find something else and move on. But at the time, he didn't really have any of the resources to make his own videos, so he got very creative. And once I saw his creativity, I kind of knew it was a little something else that he really wanted to take seriously. So he would take his, and I know everybody hears this story all the time and they get sick of it, but he would take a snack table, stack up a bunch of books, take his iPad, point it at his TV, turn his Xbox on, call his friend on the phone, put it on speakerphone to simulate that in-game talk, and he would hit record on his iPad, and he would upload those up to his YouTube channel. One of these days, I'm going to get him to let me agree to release. I'm going to get him to agree to let me release some of those videos. He won't have any of that now. But once I saw his videos and how into it he really was, how passionate he was, how entertaining he was, this wasn't the shy little kid that I knew growing up. This was a completely different personality. I embraced it like I did any other sport. Just like I did with baseball, I wanted to set him up for success, so I made sure he had the right cleats, he had the best glove, the best bat, and it was all in from there. So same thing with esports, with gaming. I didn't just give him a $2,000 PC or all the peripherals that he wanted, made him work for it, made him earn everything that he got when he started out. He would pick up extra chores around the house, make a little extra money. He even went as far as mowing the lawn, which if you can picture a little 10-year-old kid weighing 40 pounds, soaking wet, trying to push a lawnmower, it was pretty amusing. But I was there to help him out with that. He would also go to work with his mom on the weekends and help her out around her office, picking up some extra cash. So yeah, he made all his own money for all his own peripherals. We did help him out for his birthday and for Christmas, getting him a PC, and some of the bigger, more expensive stuff, going half with him on it. But yeah, once he had everything and he turned 13, he signed on to Twitch and he just went full force into streaming. Started out streaming just to his friends, 3-5 people. But again, it wasn't the shy little kid that I knew. He had this whole skeptic personality that just came out. It came alive once he hit record, once he hit stream. So his mom wasn't really, I don't tell a lot of people this, but his mom wasn't really that into him streaming. She said, you can't have a career in gaming. You can't have a career with streaming. You can't make money doing any of this. So she was very much against it. But when I saw him start streaming, I had to plead with her. I was like, just sit down and watch him. You're not going to recognize your son. Just sit down, watch him, take a few minutes, get involved. So she did. And once she saw him, she had that light bulb moment also. She's like, wow, this is pretty amazing. So with his story continuing on, he got into, he's always been playing Fortnite since day one, since it came out. But during one of his streams, he had killed Tfue, one of the top players. I was going to say at the time, but he's still one of the top players, one of the top streamers. And he didn't realize that he had killed Tfue, but his friends in his chat were like, oh my God, you guess who you just killed? So he clipped it. And as soon as he got off stream, he made his own video, edited his own video, put his point of view, put Tfue's point of view. He posted that online, and within a week, it had just exploded and gone viral. He was camping with his mom upstate, and he was texting me the whole time, Dad, my video just hit 10K. An hour later, my video just hit 20K, like just completely freaking out. But it was great to see like how excited he was. So that just kind of snowballed, and it started his career, and he just kept going headfirst into it. To the point where we ended up at TwitchCon. He had got signed by Misfits Gaming. But once we started going to all these LAN events, he had lines of kids waiting to meet him. lines of kids waiting for pictures, for autographs. And I started to notice over time that their parents were starting to line up to meet me. Thankfully, they didn't want my autograph. They didn't want my picture. But they were asking me questions from the very basic to what are esports, to how do you manage his social life? How do you manage his schooling? How do you keep him healthy and fit and not sit in front of his computer all day? I didn't really have any resources to point them to, just my own experiences, which I did. I spoke to them about what I went through, what I deal with, and how I handle things. But again, there were no other resources. I didn't have anything to go off of. I was just kind of winging it, just taking it day by day and figuring it out. And my son and I were just carving our own path and making our own way until we got to the Fortnite World Cup, where we met all the pro parents who were there, and talking to them, bonding with them, getting to know them. They all had the same experiences, same issues, as far as people asking them questions, but they had no resources. Everybody was just kind of carving their own path, and we all just met up at the World Cup. So yeah, like Shay was talking about during COVID last year, there was a Twitter thread. We all jumped in on it, kid asking how he can get his parents to support him, and asking some of the parents, why do you support your kids? So one of the parents who was on that thread suggested, hey, we need this coalition. Let's just call it COPE, Coalition Parents in Esports. So Shay and I just kind of grabbed that and ran with it. And that's kind of where we are. And that's how we all got here. And then Chris, I'm going to pass it over to Chris to Sauxy, one of the most energetic, entertaining, and enthusiastic people I've met in the scene. He's become good friends with not just my son, but myself as well. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, my name is Sauxy. I'm a content creator for Misfits Gaming. I think I've been making content since I was like 10. I also have a funny story, like how Skeptic used to set up his iPad. I would open up my PlayStation 3 and I would set up the camera and then switch the HDMI over to my Xbox to record the Xbox, then switch over to the PS3 to stop the recording, upload it on YouTube from there. I feel like I really wanted this since I was a little kid, and there was really nowhere to look back then because YouTube was really not just starting, but just getting into its prime and everything like that. But yeah. Sorry, this is my first panel, so I don't really know what to say, but Fortnite has been an experience. I kind of started off Fortnite making informational videos, stuff like that. That was the kind of content that I was into at the time, and I didn't really know how to express my personality on camera, but I got into Twitch streaming, I want to say around 2015, and I've been streaming ever since. I feel like with streaming it's so much easier to just talk to people when you're in the flow of just talking to somebody else, no matter where they are in the world live. When you're going back and forth in the chat, it really gives you opportunity to just be yourself, lay back. And when you get over the fact that there's people watching you at the very moment, it kind of just becomes natural. And it's a really good experience to be able to just interact with people no matter where you are. The thing for me was I love playing games, but I didn't like playing games by myself. So with streaming, even if I didn't have friends online, I could just play whatever game I wanted, start it up. And it's kind of crazy to think that people would want to watch me play a game and talk to me, but that's just how everything ended up. And here we are.
Thank you, Chris.
Take it back. So that kind of gets into some of the things that we've seen here as parents. And I'll start with the first one is socialization. I think so many parents and so much of what we're taught is that when they're in their room playing video games, they're by themselves. And that seems like anti-socialization. I actually find it the opposite. I see it as them learning to connect with kids all over the place. I mean, from all different, backgrounds. My son met friends from all over the country, and then it started being all over the world. And it opened up his eyes to the fact that everybody didn't live like him. He started understanding what other people's lives are like and what they go through. And that was a great eye-opening experience for him. And another part of that is just the connections they make. One time I walked into his room and realized that he had just come home from school. So had the kid he was playing with, and they were playing a game. but they were also having a very deep conversation about something that was going on personally in the other kid's life. And it was really great to see that they could do that. And this kid probably needed somebody like that he could talk to, that was kind of outside of his immediate space, but that he trusted. And so that's when I realized that these were truly meaningful relationships that they were forming out there. But then talking about streaming, I find that fascinating as well, because I know a lot of parents fear their kids getting online with the Twitch community, streaming themselves. But the one thing it's really taught mine, and I think all of them, is leadership. Because when you're running that Twitch stream, it's a live interactive talk show. So you're playing a very difficult game. You're interacting with a live audience that's asking you questions while you're playing the game. And you're also having to manage it because, this is all ages. You've got kids in there from the ages of 9, to adults, and you're managing all the interactions they're having with each other. Now, you've got to have mods, and that helps a lot, but really you're in charge of it. So I've really watched my son's leadership qualities come out in doing that, and talking about the personality. I mean, he was always the shy kid at school too, but he is 100% on when he's streaming, and that's really fun to watch. And, my mom called me one day, and I never could get her to go in and watch him stream. And she happened to call while I was watching his live stream. And that's the other thing I recommend as a parent. Go watch them. It's a blast. Interact with their community. Set up your own Twitch account. I'm known in my kids' community, and I even have, my own little taglines when I show up, that all the kids do, because they think it's funny that, Duster's mom's here. And, so we have all those things. But with her, I just said, hold on for a second. I'm going to put this on speaker. I just want you to listen to your grandson. And so she just sat there for 15 minutes listening to him stream. And she's like, that's Devin? And I'm like, yes, that's Devin. And she's like, okay, set up a Twitch account for me. So she was just totally fascinated to see what he was doing. And he created this whole world. But then the other thing that was cool for Chris and I coming into this is we came from the pro side. We thought we were going to help parents navigate how to get your kids into pro teams if they were showing, that potential or just wanted to. But what we realized, and we didn't know this, was there was so much more here, that high schools were starting leagues, that colleges were starting these really incredible programs, and colleges were realizing this is the next big thing, and they're recruiting and they're forming their own teams. And that just connected us to so many different partners. And then, of course, the thing we all worry about as parents is health. And we have found so many incredible folks who are focused on this area, and most of them are gamers themselves, but everything from doctors to psychologists, and we have all of these great resources available to us to help with any challenges they have. And for wellness, that can be avoiding injuries, because so many of them are doing, just like any sport, you're doing repetitive motions. And, there are ways, there are exercises that you can do. Both of our sons are working with a trainer, who's remote, and they do remote sessions with him, but he works on specific exercises with them that keep them active, but also work on strengthening muscles they need to counteract what's happening when they're sitting in a chair for many hours a day. So those are the things, we can do as parents to help subtly, but it really, there are huge benefits there.
Yeah, we do get a lot of questions from both sides, both parents and gamers. So our Twitter account that we started when we launched back in October, it kind of blew up very quickly on us, and we field questions daily, just dozens of DMs in our inbox, answering questions mainly for gamers, because the parents we find that are on Twitter are usually pretty involved and they're very accepting of gaming and esports. So that's not really where we're at, trying to connect with the parents who are on the fence and a little skeptical of the industry. But that's where the kids are. That's where the pro kids are. The younger kids come up through the scene. Everybody's got a Twitter account. And a lot of kids that reach out to us through our Twitter DMs, they ask us the same questions. How do I get my parents to support me? How do I get my parents to see that you can have a career in this, that I'm a great pro player, but they won't support me? And some of the resources that we point them to and we give them, and the talking points are just make sure your parents know that it's just like any other sport. You don't need to be the top 1% to have a career here. My son, when he first started out, he designed his own logo with his friends. So he was already at the age of 13 working on branding and marketing himself. So when you look at any of the organizations, any of the top tier organizations, any of the endemic businesses, companies who are within esports, they have marketing companies, they have promotion companies. You can work for behind the scenes in coding and development. You can work for the publishers. All the companies have HR departments and law departments. So if you have a passion for gaming, there's a spot for you here. So there's lots of career options. And like Shay mentioned, all the colleges, universities, not all of them, most of them are starting to give scholarships to go into their programs, not just to play for their teams, but to work for their programs and go to school and get careers for their programs. And did you mention the community fund at all? Yeah, so we have started the Cope Community Fund that we're giving back to the gaming scene and the gaming industry to set up scholarships for kids, for careers, for education, to go to schools, universities, and also to give back to some of the disenfranchised youth for equipment if they might not be able to afford it, and also travel for some of these kids and their families to get to some of the lands and conferences when they do open up in full force. So yeah, there are a lot of things that we teach the kids and give them the tools to go and talk to their parents. And on the flip side, when we do get emails from parents, it's usually, again, the first question is, what are esports? And is there really a career here? Is this legit? But some of the questions that they ask are, how do I support my kids? Sometimes the kids don't want their parents involved. They try to keep their parents separate from their friends and their gaming life. But it's just approaching them gently and knowing your own kid and how to approach that. When Skeptic first started out, he didn't want me as a mod. He didn't want me in. But I told him that came with the territory. Like, if you're going to go into streaming, we're going to do this the right way. You're going to have a good community. You're going to be family friendly. You're only 13, no cursing. He wasn't too happy about that, but he came to accept it. So yeah, like I said, I've been a mod in his chat. It's, for the parents, play some games with your kids. If they're big into Fortnite or Overwatch or COD, go start to learn how to play. Start to play with them. That was one of the best bonding experiences I had with my son growing up, is playing Mario Kart, playing Wii, and constantly beating him and letting him know that I was better than the better gamer, until he was, I guess it was about 10, 11 when I started to realize he was much better than me at Halo. Then I knew he was onto something. So yeah, we get a lot of questions. There are a lot of resources, and the main thing we tell people is to communicate with your kids, and kids communicate with your parents. That's the biggest thing you can do to understand each other and work with each other and come to that compromise of, hey, I really do enjoy gaming, and there is a career here, and we can work together to find our way. So I know your parents were very supportive, right? Yeah, we have very special guests. They traveled all the way out here from Raleigh. Yeah, we're down in Florida, so they just moved out here. So it was very cool that we actually got to meet up with them. So when did you realize that you could do this for a living? You could be in esports, you can be in gaming, streaming, and is it something that you want to do for a living?
I don't really think there was ever a moment where I thought that I could do this for a living. It was always just the matter of, I wanted to do it, so I was just going to do it anyway kind of mentality. And it eventually spiraled into something, I want to say, last year when I signed to Misfits. I made a tweet with all of my skits. I make skits on what's going on in Fortnite, just any funny interaction going on. I try to make like a funny skit about it, and it actually caught the attention of the CEO of Misfits. And from that one tweet of all those skits, I got signed to the organization. And from there, it's really just making the most out of that opportunity and seeing what I can do here and how I can set me up for the future. My parents were really always supportive of it. they actually told me a story that I forgot about where they made me write an essay about video games and how they affect the brain so I'll be able to play more. And other than that, they've always they knew that I was really into games. They were really lenient about it. I wasn't able to play on the weekdays with all my friends. You guys kind of did me dirty with that, I'm not gonna lie. But for the most part, they never had any bad thoughts about it. They just let me do my thing. And then when I got my first YouTube paycheck, I think that was when it really opened the eyes to see that I could make something out of this and take it the long run.
Gotcha. So yeah, that's great that they were very, very supportive. What are some of the things that they did for you to help support you? Obviously, they helped you out with managing your schedule by not letting you play during the week. But I think any gamer is going to find that I was the same way with Skeptic when he was growing up. It was managing his screen time and making sure he knew to get his schoolwork done and his chores done before he went off and got into gaming. Because we did try it a couple times where he would play right after school when he was like 8, 9, and that was it. There was no getting homework done, no getting schoolwork done after that because his mind was in game mode and it was very difficult. So yeah, priorities. So are there any other things that they did to support you?
I don't feel like there's anything directly that went into it, but I feel like for the most part, you guys kept an open attitude about it. It's kind of weird because you guys are right there. But yeah, they kept a very open attitude about it, and I know that when I was younger, I wasn't really vocal about it. I didn't know how to explain what I was doing, but that didn't deter them and make them think any differently about it. They didn't get mad that I wasn't very vocal about it, but they just allowed me to do what I was doing, and eventually it came to something.
Okay, so another way I would say they were probably supportive is just letting you pursue this year. So you graduated in 2020, isn't that correct? So what are your college plans and what did they allow you to do this year?
I forgot a big one. This year they actually they allowed me to go part-time, and they allowed me to take one class for my first 2 semesters, and that was right after I got assigned to Misfits, and I came to them and I said I'm not sure how I can balance going into a full-time school schedule with probably having the biggest break of this esports career. I didn't know if I was going to be able to balance my stream schedule and just school full-time. Everybody knows college is a experience, but they allowed me to take one class, and I felt like it really opened up a lot of opportunities. I don't think I would have had the opportunity to move down to Florida if I didn't take a part-time schedule, and I don't think I would have had the success I had this year if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, so Chris's parents were very supportive in letting him just pick up and move down to Florida to be closer to his teammates and Misfits Gaming headquarters that are down there. So that was a huge transition, not just for him, but for them as well. I can imagine. I have a question. When do you think your parents realized and knew that this was something you really wanted to pursue? Like, do you think there was a moment for them that they were like, all right, this is it. This is his path.
I think that moment came before any of the success or before anything really happened that showed that I could do this. Back when I would record my Xbox using my PlayStation, I think I showed them one of my videos, and just like your faces when you guys were watching it, it was one of the one things that I actually put time and effort into, because that was another thing. I would come up with all these ideas, all these random things that I wanted to do, and then maybe last like a week or two. But just them seeing that I actually put the time and the effort, even though I didn't have the best resources or anything, that I actually got creative and found a way to do it. I feel like that really showed them that this was something that I was serious about and I wasn't just another 1 week plan.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, we have a question from someone online named Cliff Parker.
All right.
And Cliff's question is, how do you manage their emotional health if/when bullies come into their streams? Have your kids had issues with this?
That's a great question. I'm sure.
I feel like the main thing that you can teach your kid, especially when they're on Twitch, if somebody comes in their chat and they're bullying them, I feel like you should kind of teach them to give it the side eye, I don't know, give it the cold shoulder. Don't really pay too much attention to it because they're in your stream watching you do whatever you're doing, try to disrupt your flow. I feel like it's just going to come with it. And you should feel like you're doing something right if somebody's going out of their way to come into your stream and disrupt the flow of it, whatever. Just kind of ignore it and just continue to do what you're doing.
That's great. And some of the best tools to have on Twitch and even on YouTube are mods, good mods who are in there and being active and supportive and know when to weed out the bad seeds and the toxicity when they come in there. But unfortunately, my son has dealt with this a lot over the years. I guess it's something about kids who succeed, people around them just, I guess kids in the community just take a lot of joy in watching them fall or trying to take them down, which is unfortunate because there's so much room in this industry for everybody. But yeah, my son has seen it all as far as toxicity goes. And aside from having great mods who are not just mods, they're his friends that he grew up with. I was always in his chat. I'm always in his streams, and I know when he's having a rough day. I know when he's needs to end stream early because some of the kids in his chat are getting to him. But I always give him the time to, after he ends stream, just to cool off. I never want to just barge into his room and be like, "Oh my God, are you okay? What's going on? You know, let's talk about this." I give him the time to cool off, collect himself, get himself together, and he knows that he can come to me and talk to me about these things. And a lot of the discussions usually revolve around, there are kids who are jealous. There are kids who just want to, take you down. There are kids who think it's funny. But it's also helped him realize that that's not how he wants to treat people. So it's kind of helped his compassion and his empathy towards other people, seeing how he was treated growing up. So, but again, it's a lot of communication, a lot of sitting down with him and talking to him and making him realize, don't take this personally. This isn't an attack directly against you. Kids don't know you. They don't know you personally, so don't take it personally.
This is for Sauxy. Or I'm sure that y'all can respond to this as well. Was there ever a time that your mental health was like struggling, but you still felt like you had to put on for your stream, you had to show up as you and really perform? And how do you navigate that?
I think I did have a time like that around senior year. I kind of took a longer break from gaming, and that's kind of away from the question because you said, how do you deal with that? But I feel like the best thing you can do is try not to deal with it, actually, and try to step away and find balance in the area that you feel like you need to, because you're not going to do well with esports, whether it's streaming or playing or anything. You're not going to do well if you don't have the right mental. And taking that step away, I felt like I used up a lot of my childhood chasing this dream, and I didn't really spend a lot of time on finding myself and knowing who I am outside of that. So that was kind of what I did my senior year. I took a few months off and I just lived life, just experienced, learned a lot more about the people around me. And I felt like coming back into streaming, knowing that I had fixed that area of my life, I felt a lot more relaxed when I was streaming, knowing that that wasn't really a concern for me. So it's really just to deal with those problems head on instead of trying to stream or do whatever and get away from that or feeling like that can fix the problem. It's better to just go and fix it directly.
Was it right after that you got time?
Yeah, right after that break, coronavirus happened and being inside the house after being outside the house for probably the most I'd ever been in my life. Being stuck inside, I kind of found a new passion for it again. I reinvented myself, my content changed, and I feel like everything kind of came together.
Yeah, that's some of the best advice that I've heard and that I can tell people is know your limits and know when you need to take a break and step away. My son would push himself when he was younger daily, streaming 5-6 hours a day, no days off. He would just be at it 7 days a week. And when I talk to him, I'd be like, dude, you need to take a break. You need to just step away and be like, no, I can't. And that's one of the toughest things about streaming is when you take a few days off, you could lose a bunch of subs. You could lose some of your following. They might not come back and watch you again. So that takes its toll on everybody, all the big streamers, all the way down to the smaller streamers. Like, they all know it. They all know that they have to push themselves daily. So one of the great things that my son and Chris even got into is working out. They take care of themselves mentally and physically by going to the gym every day. They know that when they need to take a break, it helps them just getting that physical exercise and just being outside away from the computer really definitely helps with their mental state. He had his hand up right back there.
This is for Sauxy. What's something you regret, like when you started streaming, or something that you can tell when you started off?
I feel like one of the main tips I can give you for streaming is just be yourself. I feel like one of the main things that people try to do when they start streaming is they see success from somebody else and they try to recreate that success for themselves, try to pick up They kind of pick up mannerisms from their favorite streamers. And it's I'm not saying not to have an inspiration, but kind of don't try to copy the way that person's successful or entertaining and just make it your own. People will watch anybody in this community. There's enough viewers for everybody. There's enough subscribers for everybody. You will find your place in the community just by being yourself. And when you're yourself from the beginning, you never have to change. You never have to switch up. People will just be there for you. And that's the main thing that you want at the end of the day. You don't want anybody to be there to watch you play a specific game. You don't want anybody to be there to want you to do specific things. You just want them to be there for you and whatever comes with you. And that will give you the best time streaming, in my opinion.
Thank you.
Questions down here? Sure.
How do you reconcile, I guess, when I give them to the doctor and they say, okay, next week getting at least just 1 to 3 to 10 hours? I'm very conflicted because I feel like a bad parent if I'm saying no, but no, he's not. He's a doctor, he's not.
Mm-hmm.
But then I know that he has something special in him for a long time. So I feel like I've been into the street, right? And I've been doing it for a long time. But when as a parent, when you have to answer to something that is the norm that we're supposed to be doing, I feel bad. But then I feel bad if I'm taking away from them. And then actually, me and my husband are kind of like you said with your wife. I don't know too much about it. I just know everything that he teaches me. But then my husband is more for the education path, which I am too. But how do you merge two without Jonathan, my son, feeling like we're not supporting him, but then we also want that balance?
It's a great question. And honestly, the normal is different for everybody. And the way that technology is heading, screen times are going to be part of they already are part of our daily lives. But they're going to be even more so in a few years. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I mean, that's challenging right now. I've never had a doctor ask me that question on how much screen time I'm allowing. That's crazy to ask that now. But really, that's,
I just say yes.
yeah, and yes. I mean, I think it's just balance with that. There are studies coming out, and that's one of the cool things here. We've connected with a couple of really incredible psychologists who are really fighting back about some of the negative stigmas. And so they're actually doing studies on this about how it does affect them. I mean, I'll give an example in the elementary school. I talked to a teacher who was actually in Vancouver recently who was frustrated because she's been using Minecraft in her first grade classroom to teach history and to teach science because she finds that kids are much more engaged and they learn a lot more if it's interactive. And so just by having them complete tasks in Minecraft, they were actually retaining the knowledge much better than if she was just in front of them lecturing or she was just having them read a book. But she's had to take it out of her program because parents pushed back because it was adding more screen time to elementary kids' day. You know, and that was really sad for her because the kids loved it. She could tell they were learning more, but there's just not a lot of proof out there right now that shows that that's the truth, that this can be beneficial for education. So I think all of that will change, and that's part of what we're trying to do is to change that perception and get more studies. But I really think it's all about balance. And that's something that we've tried to incorporate. My son was super active before he got into gaming, and now then he started spending many, many hours practicing. And we had to go back to finding that balance. And it became as simple as I put together silly rules that he had every time a Fortnite game ended, he had to do, 20 sit-ups or push-ups. But then to make it part of his training, depending on his placement in that last game, he had to do more sit-ups. So we did funny things, on that. But just, trying to keep them active while they're still playing, I think is a big part of it.
And I think there's also, in my opinion, productive screen time versus the unproductive screen time. So if my son was just sitting there scrolling TikTok for 3 hours, which I'm guilty of because it's an awful app. But yeah, if he was being very unproductive and just scrolling TikTok for 3 hours, that'd be something I'd address with him. But if he's on playing Minecraft and playing with friends all over the country and learning these communication skills and teamwork skills, I think there's a lot more real world learning going on with gaming. So I think there's finding that balance with the productive screen time and everything else.
Now I want to address the other half of that, the education side. How do you get this? I mean, does your school have a program at all? I assume they didn't. So what is it you're most interested in pursuing? Is it pro or is it? Yeah. Yeah. So really, I think, there's a few ways you can do that as far as getting it more integrated to education. Schools are starting to recognize they need this, especially middle schools and high school, but they don't know how to do it because they need people who understand it. So that's one of the things I would do is go talk to your school. You go see if you can start a club. And that, that's something, all of these programs you see right now are started by some kid, some mom who said, hey, this is needed. Let's do it. I mean, that's how we're here right now. So try to do that because that can incorporate it. I mean, what we're seeing in high schools that are amazing are the ones that are truly embracing it. And they're teaching classes in shoutcasting. They're teaching classes in video production. So you're actually getting credit for stuff that actually helps your career. And that can lead, to college scholarships. But I would try to get them to listen to you, get them to pay attention to you, and that will get it more involved. But as far as, just, talking back to, the question earlier about streaming is also find, those pros and those teams that you look up to and learn from them. That's what we all saw our kids doing is spending hours watching YouTube videos. And I could not figure out, first of all, why did he want to watch somebody else playing a game? But then, and I was concerned about the time. I mean, every time we were in the car, he was glued to the iPad watching YouTube videos. But I realized when I started asking questions that it wasn't just about watching somebody play a game. He was learning skills, he was learning tactics, and he was also just learning what he enjoyed as far as entertainment, which was incorporated into to what he does now. Mhm.
Somewhere higher.
Mhm.
How much, like, I'll ask them, and I've provided everything, probably more to my knowledge that I should have. But what's the important thing, what can I do, I don't do anything, but I need to know more. And he knows, I think, but I don't know if he pulls that information from me. Not so much the word, but I think he probably feels like I'm already doing what, because every time I ask, like, every year something different. When does it stop? No, every year he builds one, and then it's like, oh, but this one's better, but that's what you told me last year. And it just keeps going. Again, I think there's something to it. I do,
Yeah.
and I see it.
Yeah.
I see it at home. But as a parent, as an adult, who do I reach out to? We have a great, I think, a support system. They let me know them. Actually, we actually let me know, believe it or not, we just went to Code Ninja, and we saw the gaming, and even that, I was serious. But yeah.
Well, actually, I think by finding this group, you've done exactly what you need to do. Because this is it. I mean, this is finding, a local community of gamers to work with, but also connect to us. So follow us online on our socials, and also, add your email on our website. We are starting newsletters. We are a brand new organization, but that's exactly what we're here for. We're going to be providing education on various aspects of what is esports, but also connections on programs that we're finding for universities. Because that's where it really goes, is, taking this to the next level of, and it may not even be that you pursue a career in this, but if it helps you get into that college of choice that you may not have gotten in, otherwise, that's cool. Any other questions? Any online? Okay. Yes.
So initially, I was very reserved, spending so much time. Wanting to focus on school first. Being here, seeing the potential, made me, definitely more on board. I would say prior. Can you, parents and as well, speak about the initial investments and
Yeah, I think that, that's a huge barrier to entry here for most families, because they assume it's so expensive to get in. But for most games, you can actually have a decent machine. And it sounds like you already are there. Are you building your own machines?
yeah, I just
Awesome. That's another great way to learn here. But, it is. I mean, the costs are extensive for the hardware, but really that's been it for us. And honestly, my son now, as he started streaming and winning some tournaments, he's learned to manage his own money, and he has his own bank account, and he pays for his own things, and he's looking at getting a job coaching, locally to add to that. So I've seen it go both ways, because as soon as he started making his own money, he wanted to take over. He wanted to pay for his own stuff. And that has been great, because now, there are new things that he wants for his PC, but now he's saving up for it instead of just begging me for it.
I can speak to that. I feel like starting off, I didn't have the best equipment at all, but with streaming, that was when I started to see like my first type of income, when they started doing affiliation. That was when I started having my first real type of money, and I started using that to build the setup that I have today. I don't want to be inaccurate, but I don't really feel like you guys helped me out too much with buying my overall setup. But seeing that I could make money and I could get all this stuff for my own, it kind of pushed me harder, because I knew that all the areas that I was lacking with in my quality and everything like that, I could fix it myself. And learning to use I'm sorry, I can't really think right now. Learning to use worse equipment helped me when I got better equipment. So I feel like kind of grinding it out with what you have and finding a way to make that work before you buy better stuff is kind of the way you want to go. Instead of just leaping to get the best equipment, I feel like to get that drive to know how to work with what you have, it makes it a lot better when you get what you need.
Can I just say, it was way more expensive with the game system. Once he started streaming and playing, on the PC, then he started building his own, his own equipment. So yeah, it was much more expensive with the, with the Xboxes, and you have to get the latest PlayStation and all that stuff. That's when we spent the money. But with this new age, it's way more. Yeah, it's way more less expensive on the parents.
Once he went computer, he started buying it. He bought his own parts. So once they were computer, they started making that money. Like she said, you don't want to invest in it. So they don't come to they even do like $100 for what? That's part of it.
My husband never is his, but he started making his own money. He's resourceful, started mining, so he can't just made the money when he buys the stuff. So it's worth. That's what I'm saying. I think it's more than just.
Yeah.
He's had his computer grow, but I think it's the big stuff. Like as much as he said, like I'll research, but there's not something that just answers all these questions. And also, you don't know if it's normal. Like my husband, I think asks often, is this normal? Like he wants to be what is this? I don't know, mice, mouse, I say it wrong all the time. Or keyboards, and I'm always, and he says it helps him, like he said.
Yeah.
Myself included, it wasn't sport. So I was like,
Yeah.
But now I see it, and now it's actually easier.
Yeah, and another thing I'll say about that equipment, it's all resellable on eBay.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yes, I've taught my son how to resell, and we trade that stuff in all the time or donate it to other gamers. So sometimes we'll do giveaways in his stream to give away his old mice, which is always fun to do. But we've sold lots of stuff on eBay, and I've sold some mice for more than what we bought for them. So that's awesome. I wanted to address one more thing though on the time. It's a time commitment just like any other sport you're doing with your kid. I'm not going to lie. There definitely has been time and travel commitments because we definitely were going to lands that were out of state, but those were fun and we got a ton out of them. But it's been no more than any other sport. My daughter has been a competitive figure skater for years. That was commitment. That was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to go to an ice rink. This is way easier. I know. And it's like, yeah, we're sometimes, I keep gamer hours now with my son. My daughter is often leaving for the ice rink right now as the two of us are going to bed. So I think that's the biggest challenge. Also, making dinner at midnight has been challenging, but you adjust. You have another question? Yes. Yes, they do. And so does Twitch. Unfortunately, no matter how you win the money or earn the money, you will have to pay taxes on it. And your age doesn't help. Yeah, and that's actually something else that we help out with. We have a couple of incredible lawyers and accountants who are part of our organization, and they have helped a lot of gamers as they're earning money on how to manage that budget, how to invest it, and the whole taxes. So we have a few that are helping with taxes, and it's not just taxes in the U.S. We've got kids winning in Canada and Europe, and they're trying to figure all that out as well. So it's been a great education for my son at a very young age of understanding finances that he would have never known. But he actually says that he learned how to do finances in Roblox. Any other questions? Yeah, I'm going to address one other thing because I think it's funny and we haven't talked about it yet, but we have had it from a couple of parents out here. And that's the other thing that I think makes this sport different is the anger displayed at your computer when something's not going your way. And we've all experienced that. And it's the comparison that I often make, and I heard somebody else make today, is you don't get upset when your kid slams their bat on the ground. And it is, I mean, this is an incredibly competitive sport. And because it's done in a bedroom, we expect inside voices. And that's just that's not the right expectation. They're going to be passionate. And a parent once told me when I got mad at my son because he didn't act the right way when he lost a big Fortnite tournament was, give him space. If he didn't have that passion, he wouldn't be doing this anymore. And it was true. I backed off, I let him calm down, and he was fine. So that's something I've had to learn as a parent is, give them space and let them process that. And then after they've calmed down, then we discuss how maybe you could have handled this a little better. But I've also had other parents point out that one of the challenges here is that the equipment is a little bit more expensive and breakable than a bat. So that's the biggest thing that we've had to, deal with was my son was notorious for breaking things. And we went through way too many mice and way too many microphones. And so we actually have some of those that he has beat up as displays in his room. And I still have a dent in the wall of my playroom from a controller that hit the wall at about 100 miles an hour.
And the great thing is when they start buying their own equipment, making their own money, they take a little better care of it as well. So that's always a good thing. Anything else you want
I think that's it.
Last thing, I guess, to leave you all with, as this was for engaging parents in esports, do you have any tips, advice for kids on how to approach their parents or talk to their parents to let them know that, hey, this is a cool space, it's a legit space, and I can make a career out of this?
I feel like the first step is obviously talking to them. Communication is always the first step, but I feel like the number one thing you can do is go to them with results. Even if they only give you 30 minutes on the game a day, an hour on the game a day, make sure you're spending that hour doing something that you can show them that you actually want to, even if you don't want to take it that seriously, just show them that this is something that you care about. It's a hobby, and just give them, the best thing you can do is just give them results.
All right, well, thank you everyone for coming, and thank you everyone on the Twitch stream.